Hey guys, it's Blair with RevitAuto, and in this video we're going to show you how you can replace your oil pressure sending unit on a 2012 Ram 1500. This truck's equipped with a 5.7 Hemi and will apply to many other makes and models with the same motor. So if you've come across this issue where you're inside your vehicle and your oil pressure is reading 96 psi, regardless if the engine is running or the engine is off, then this is going to be your solution. Your oil pressure sending unit has failed internally and is causing for the maximum possible reading, which will result in two things. One, you won't accurately know what your oil pressure is, and two, you'll have a check engine light. So the engine's running right now, it just started, and it is showing 96 psi of oil pressure, which is the maximum that it can read. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the vehicle off, turn the key to the on position, and pull up the live data display that will still say that we're at 96 psi of oil pressure with the engine completely off. To locate the oil pressure sensor, you wanna have the hood raised and you wanna look just above the oil filter. It's on the passenger side, front end of the block, about 2 inches above where the filter is mounted. You're gonna go ahead and remove an electrical pigtail, and they're gonna use a 1 1/16 socket to remove it. First thing that you have to do is remove this connector, which you'll wanna go ahead and pry out using a small flathead screwdriver. Now, there's a very large chance that if you live in a salt climate with 100,000 miles on the vehicle, this is going to fail to withstand the rigors of disassembly. So you wanna be as gentle as you can in separating this out. All right, so the best way that I found to remove this red clip is to actually press on it from the opposite side and just press it in. Typically what you'll do is you'll grab it from this little tab here, but this tab is going to break off guaranteed. So I use a small little screwdriver and I just press it in from the opposite side, and that releases it. The best way to remove this pigtail is to press the connector towards the truck this way, then depress the clip and you pull it out. And there's gonna be some rust and corrosion in there from years of salt life if you're in the salty areas. At this point, you can get to the sensor. So to remove this, you use a 1 1/16 inch socket, courtesy of my Harbor Freight Special. And then I'm gonna use my 1/2 inch breaker bar and an extension to gain access. Once I have my extension in, I'll go ahead and loosen it up. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. So as you pull this out, you're gonna wanna have a drain pan or some rags underneath the sensor, because oil will come out. You wanna go ahead and make sure that your connectors are the same. That way you can go ahead and reinstall this. Now, this is a brass pipe thread fitting. I'm gonna put just a little bit of RTV on it and I'm gonna put it in. But it's going into an aluminum block and an aluminum head, right? And I don't mean that the head of the motor, I just mean like the head that is the oil filter assembly housing. When it threads in there, you wanna make sure that you're only doing about 18 foot-pounds. And if you're using a big old socket like this, and a 1/2 inch extension and a 1/2 inch breaker bar, you're going to over torque it. So I'm telling you, do not over tighten it. You are going to think that it's not tight enough, but it will be because you're only trying to do 18 foot-pounds. The next thing that I'm gonna do here is just grab a little bit of my RTV and put just a little RTV onto my threads and install it. Now the sensor's only gonna go in probably, I would say 7 or 8 turns, maybe a little bit less. So the fact that there's RTV all the way down to the bottom is not important. I'm gonna go ahead and put it back in now, and the oil that's come out has cleaned the threads for me, so I can go ahead and just bolt it right in. So there's no way for us to get a camera angle while we are doing this, but basically you're just feeling for the hole and threading it in just like you would anything else. And you want to do this by hand. You never want to thread this in with a socket, and you want to turn it as many times as possible before you put any torque onto it. And now I'm going to go ahead and grab my socket and continue to snug it up. And I'd like to say that I have strong mechanic hands, but I actually don't anymore because I spend so much time in the office and not in the field actually working. So now I have weak office hands. So you should be able to do that about 3 or 4 times before you need to put a wrench on it. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and snug this baby up. And I'm grabbing the ratchet as low as I possibly can so that I don't over torque this. Because remember, I'm only looking for somewhere in that 18 foot-pound range. Because I know someone's going to do this and strip this, I have 2 fingers putting very little effort on this 1/2-inch breaker bar, okay? And we are getting very dangerously close to where I need it to be for tightness, and that's where I'm going to go ahead and leave it. I'm just gonna reinstall the connector upside down because that's where it felt good to me, and I do not want to over tighten this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and flip my connector upside down and reinstall the connector. All right, so I put a little dielectric grease into the connector, which will help seal it and make it a little easier for me to slide it in, and press it all the way until it latches, and then press in the red clip. Once you've done that, it's locked and will not come out. Now remember, I told you guys I would like to have gone another 1/2 turn, but I was in far enough and I didn't want to strip it, so I'm leaving it there. The next thing is to start the engine and make sure that you don't have any leaks. So once you've started the engine, you want to make sure that you get to a full heat cycle, and then check the sensor every couple of times you fill up with fuel to make sure that there's no leaks. Now if this sensor is to leak at any point, while you're driving, you need to immediately shut the vehicle off because you can run out of engine oil incredibly quickly and dump oil on the road. You want to make sure you don't over torque this sensor because it's going to cause a whole bunch of issues later. Go check to make sure that your oil pressure gauge is reading correctly inside the dash. To complete this repair, we used a 1 1/16 inch deep well socket. We used about 3 inches worth of adapters to space it out. We used a 1/2-inch breaker bar. We used brake parts cleaner to clean the oil area. We used dielectric grease to go ahead and lubricate and grease the pigtail connector as it went back in. Just used my small little headlamp, and my favorite tool now, the Top Done Phoenix Light. If you guys want to learn more about an awesome, affordable, entry-level professional scan tool, this is the tool that I recommend. Check the description of the video to see us review it. And as always guys, be safe, have fun, stay thirsty, and happy motoring.